Welcome back to the Beer Junkies. Today we are brewing an American Pale Ale. The American Pale Ale is a hop-forward session ale with a nice balancing malt character. The malt character and the color can range slightly, but regardless of that, you're going to want to use the citrusy American hops. Those will really make this style pop. So stay with us. We're going to walk you through our recipe design, the malts we use, the hops we use, the yeast we use, and then our water profile. We're also going to walk you through our process, the mashing, mash out, sparge, the boil, whirlpool, knockout, fermentation. And at the very end, we're going to walk you through our taste test. But before that, I want to give you guys the update with our collaboration between ourselves and the YouTube channel Justhomebrew. We are collaborating with the YouTube channel Justhomebrew. I have tagged him in the description below. He brewed our German Kolsch, which I've also attached in the description below. He followed our recipe and our process, and it is currently in fermentation. Once it finishes, he's going to send me a bottle of the beer he made. I will send him a bottle of the beer that I made, and we are going to taste test to compare. It is an awesome video, and I cannot wait to taste test. The water profile for the American IPA is 50 parts per million of calcium, 15 parts per million of sodium, 100 parts per million of sulfate, and 50 parts per million of chloride. That extra sulfate will really help accentuate that hop bitterness, which is something we want with this style. To do that, I'm adding calcium chloride, gypsum, and Epsom salt. Right now I'm filling up the hot liquor tank with the brewing water to the right temperature and volume. Once that's ready, we're going to mash in. Before that, I'm going to walk you through our grain build. These are the grains that we use. We've got my buckets over here, rice hulls on top, and that crushed grist in there. And we've got plenty of it for this beer. For the grain selection, we use 60 to 65% of a pale malt, 30 to 35% Munich, and 5% Crystal 40. You can use Maris Otter for that pale malt if you like a little bit more bready, toasty flavor. I like to use Maris Otter for the American Pale Ale. I really like a little bit more of that malty backbone than if you were to use just a regular pale. You don't have to though. The Munich also helps beef up that maltiness. And then I wouldn't go any higher than Crystal 40. Any higher will start to add too much caramel, too much body, and too much sweetness. You want to just a touch for this style, and 5% is perfect. The mash tun is ready, so let's mash in. We mash the American Pale Ale between 151 to 152 degrees for 60 minutes. This will give us that mix of alpha amylase and beta amylase to give us that neutral beer. We don't want it too dry or too full. We want it right in the middle. So after 60 minutes at 152 degrees, I'll raise it up to 168 degrees for mash out. But before that, I'm going to show you our mashing setup. This is our mashing setup for the American Pale Ale. We are pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pushing it through our pump, through our Herms coil, and then recirculating in here so that we get that filter or the grain bed all set up. So now that we're mashing, I'll be back when it's time to mash out. We just mashed for 60 minutes, so now we're mashing out. I've raised the hot liquor tank to 176 degrees. This will raise our mash tun up to about 168. It's already on its way up at 158 degrees. Once we get to mash out, we'll begin to sparge. We just finished mash out, so now we're sparging. We're pulling wort from the bottom of the mash tun through our false bottom, pushing it through our wort pump over into our boil kettle. At the same time, we're pulling the sparge water from our hot liquor tank, pushing it through our water pump, and then rinsing the rest of the residual sugars through those grains. Once this is done, we'll boil, so I'll be back when it is boiling. All right, these are the hops that we use for the American Pale Ale. We use Centennial, and we use Cascade. We use Centennial mainly for bittering. We put about 25 to 30 IBUs in about the 60-minute mark. We put 5 to 8 IBUs worth of Cascade in around 30 minutes, 3 to 5 IBUs of Cascade in the last 5 minutes, and then half an ounce per 5 gallons at flame out. This will give you that American hop flavor that is famous in the American Pale Ales. You want that hop flavor to be noticeable, but you don't want the bittering to be too harsh. You don't want it to be quite IPA level, but just below that. Also, don't use any of the American hop varieties that add the piney or resiny flavors. Stick to the citrusy floral kind. We just got to a boil, so we'll boil this wort for 90 minutes, add the hops as needed, and be back in time for the whirlpool. We just finished the boil, so now we are whirlpooling, pulling the wort from the bottom of the boil kettle, pushing it through the tangential input. This will pull all of the hops and shrub to the center of the boil kettle so we don't push it over during knockout. After whirlpooling, I will let this wind down for 10 minutes. This will let everything settle. Then we are going to push it through our heat exchanger. This will rapidly decrease the temperature to pitching temperature. We will also add oxygen at this step. We just finished a whirlpool, so now we're knocking out, pulling the wort through the racking arm of the boil kettle, pushing it through our heat exchanger. You can see that it is going through at 64 degrees, which is perfect pitching temperature. There's our oxygen being added directly to the wort. And we're going all the way down here to the bottom of the fermenter, which is pushing out all the excess air as we fill it. We just finished knockout, so this is our specific gravity reading. You can see all of that cold break, which is a result of that quick temperature decrease during knockout. I apologize for not getting a video of the actual yeast, but this is the strain we use. We use the California ale yeast. It is just a very clean fermenting strain, which is perfect for the American Pale Ale. We knock out the American Pale Ale at 64 degrees and let this free rise up to 67 degrees as fermentation starts. We will hold it there until it is done, do a quick diacetyl rest at 72 degrees, and cold crash it to 33, push it to the bright tank, and carbonate it to 2.7 volumes. All right, this is what we made. It is crystal clear with a very, very light amber color, just a touch darker than gold. We have a white head for the smell. It's filled with the citrus and floral notes from those Cascade hops. Might be a touch of malty sweetness from that caramel 40, but not much at all. The taste, very similar to the smell. I get a lot of that citrus and floral notes from the Cascade hops. There's noticeable bitterness, but it's not overpowering. I get a touch of sweetness from the caramel, but hardly any there. The hops are definitely the star of this show. The malt is only supporting. We're over the age of 21. We do not condone underage drinking. Please drink responsibly. Cheers. If you would like to see more brewing content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button right below. We post a new video every week. And make sure, if you haven't checked them out yet, check out Justhomebrew. Their channel is filled with great information. He does a great job of explaining his setup and his brew days. I've tagged them in the description below. Make sure you check them out. Cheers.